Before today's episode, I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, and recognise their continued connection to the beautiful land and sea. I'd also like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and I extend this acknowledgement to the traditional owners of the land my listeners are on. Welcome to Ritual the Podcast, your cottage in the woods. A sacred space for the witches, the healers, the magical folk to meet and speak of wisdom, witchery, and old world magic, where people come to learn, to hear stories, to share secrets, and to be free to be their true selves. Welcome to Ritual. Hello and welcome back to Ritual. My name is Amy Harvey, and I am here with a very special guest today who you've never seen before.
Why is that funny? You asked me back. You've asked me back for this.
Hello, Paddy.
Hello, Amy. It's what a warm introduction. I'm so excited that I am back because it means you wanted me back, Amy. Or you just had nobody else to do this with.
No. It was more that we're stuck in this thing together now, these stories. I can't really do. Actually, we were saying that we want to get other people to come and join us on our story episodes.
Right.
We're sick of talking to each other. I'm not. I'm joking.
I'm not. I'm actually really happy to be here, and I'm glad to be here. And no matter what abuse you throw my way, I will only receive it with love.
That's very kind. Now, I would like to start by saying I do apologize for the lack of podcast last week.
Just laziness.
Purely. No, last week we were all sick, weren't we? It's Noah's fault. He was the contagion, and it spread like wildfire in the house, and I was not in a state to podcast.
Look, it was tricky, and we've all moved on. We're all here. We're all happy. We're all healthy, and it's story time.
And also, if you're watching this, you may notice that we have a different background tonight, because our heater died, and we live in the hills, and it is really freaking cold. Our house is like I
think it was about 10 degrees when we woke up this morning.
Yeah, it's not good.
So we've had the fire going.
So we're sitting in front of the fire
To summarize, we're sitting in front of the fire. I stopped on the way home to grab more firewood.
It's very picturesque,
on the way back from
though.
Yes, it's nice. We got a little cauldron behind us. We bit of ice water.
I've got my ice water.
Bit of ice whiskey. Well, it's story time. It's whiskey time, baby.
And may I just say that for tonight's story episode, this one, I think out of all of them, has had the most enthusiasm. Not that everyone's not enthusiastic anyway, but I got so many messages with people saying how excited they were because tonight we have our tin hats on. Tonight it is conspiracy theory story time.
It so is, and we're very excited.
We love a good conspiracy theory. I think everybody does. It's one of the things that divides a nation, though. It really brings out. Okay, bye. I think Paddy's actually making a tinfoil hat. This is the thing when we're in this room, is now that you have access. I'm not wearing it.
I've got one for both of us.
I'm not wearing it.
So this is it.
Paddy is wearing tinfoil on his head.
And if there's one here, if you want it. Okay. All right.
Conspiracy theories, they bring out people's inner crazy.
Well, if you're game enough to wear a tinfoil hat.
Well, perfect example is sitting right next to me. But I feel like it's a dangerous place to be in because once you go down a rabbit hole, you end up somewhere deep and dark and disturbing and addictive.
Yeah. Look. There's a saying. Opinions are like bums. Let's make it a dear bums. Everyone's got one, and as soon as you give a platform, I like, you get social media, and everyone's got a platform to a soapbox to yell from, then you're going to get everyone's opinions, and they may be wacky, they may be crazy, but you know what?
I think I've got some of those ones tonight.
But there are some where there are literally hundreds of millions of people who feel exactly the same way, and then you go, hey, you know what? It only takes one follower to turn a lone nut into a leader. It only takes one person who, rants and raves about something, and I know I looked over your shoulder and I saw one of the ones you're doing, like one of those ones, for someone else to go, do you know what, Jim? Maybe you've got a point. And then all of a sudden you have the beginnings of a movement.
You do, which isn't always a good thing.
No, not if they're insane. No.
Which again, we'll get into tonight. But I also feel like with platforms like TikTok, there is so much information out there that I think even someone who is really like, what's the opposite of being a conspiracy theory? They're very closed-minded to the theory.
What? First of all, you said, what's the opposite of being a conspiracy theory?
I think, what's it called when you're like not a conspiracy theorist? You're like someone who's super open to it, and the person that's the opposite is someone who's very
closed-minded. I don't know. I think everyone's got a conspiracy.
Everyone has a conspiracy theory about something.
Side. I don't know. But what was your point?
I don't know.
Okay, good.
Now we may also be joined by two dogs tonight. They're currently staring at us, or a cat, or a child. So just warning, if you hear us mumbling away, it's probably at some living creature.
Or one of the dogs has just done something that makes everyone else in the room uncomfortable.
Yeah. So shall we start?
We shall.
There's a lot to get through.
Okay.
Obviously, we're not going through every conspiracy theory because I will be very tired soon.
No, but there's some crap. I mean, I've got a good one, but you've got.
I actually just kind of cover a few different random ones because I found it quite difficult to pick.
Okay.
Should I start?
Sure.
This one is the one that I think is insane. My friend actually messaged me about this, and I read into it, and I was like, it actually made me sad for the human race a little bit, because it's just like, it's just insane. It's just insane. And as soon as I say it, you'll know what I mean.
This isn't the fat free yogurt one, no?
No, what's that?
Huh?
What is that? Is that one?
No, I just
oh no,
took a punt.
No.
Okay,
here we go.
Okay.
Birds aren't real.
Yes.
That's the theory. Birds are fake, and they're actually drones.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all I have to say, and you understand what I mean. It's insane.
Every bird?
Well, this is the thing, right? It's I'll tell you how it started. So there in 2017, there was a guy called Peter McIndoe. I think is how you would say McIndoe. And so this was right after Trump was elected as president.
Say no more.
There was a lot of shit going down in that country. And there were lots of riots and whatever. And so this dude, he went to one of the big rallies, and everyone's got their signs and they're screaming and yelling about who knows what, everything. So he held up a sign that said, "Birds aren't real." So he actually did it as a joke, as like a satire thing, because it was like something different to what everybody else was saying. Like, I think he was just like being a smart ass pretty much.
Yeah, right.
So he held this sign up that literally said, "Birds aren't real." And so someone asked him, what do you mean birds aren't real? And so he like
was quick on his feet.
He basically created this like persona of someone who was a conspiracy theorist.
Right.
And he said to all these like people that were like, what's the deal with the birds aren't real thing? He was like, you know, it happened like 50 years ago. The deep state killed them all and they replaced them with drones to like monitor us. And people were like, it really like resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it spread like wildfire and it became this like viral thing, especially with, do you say QAnon, those people. They really were like, yes, he's onto something. These birds are drones, 100%. And so he had like created this mock character. And he like had all these facts where he said like doves are better with accuracy, and like all these facts about all the different birds and how they're all used for different things. So they would say that the birds would sit on power lines to recharge themselves. And then bird poo on cars was a tracking method.
Oh my God.
And that JFK was murdered due to the reluctance to kill all the birds. And so then when he died, they killed them all and they replaced them with these drones. Now, so this guy knows it's a complete lie, but what it has turned into is this whole movement where people are so convinced that birds are all drones.
Yeah.
And that's just how they watch them. And so there's like all these pages of people who are like, yep, I found this bird and it was like, I could see the camera in it. And
what did they open it up?
I have no
I found a camera
idea.
inside.
But this is what I mean.
The seagull.
Is that even though the guy that made this knows it was real, you see how many people believe something so ridiculous. And they said that the way that he had put it is that it was like kind of crazy, but not crazy enough, but enough for the QAnon people to go, it's not too crazy that I wouldn't believe it. And it makes sense to me.
It's a lot of drones.
It's so many drones.
It's more like, it's kind of like going, I can't even think of something that out there, like, but, oh yeah, birds aren't real, they're drones. And for someone to go, he's got a point.
He does
like,
have a point.
That is
but this
madness.
Is like hundreds of thousands of people are on these like Facebook. I think the Facebook group is literally called Birds Aren't Real. And people are so convinced. And it just makes me go, oh my God. Like, what are you doing with your life?
But is that taking up a lot of their personal time? Like, is that kind of like, how is work? I can't talk, sweetheart. I have to go to the office and keep.
People have stickers on their cars.
I have to update the Facebook group. I saw 45 drones at a fountain today.
And they were shitting everywhere.
They were just dropping tags.
Imagine those
dropping tracking devices all over this car.
The people that get like pooed on by a bird, they're like, "Oh my God, they're
run and hide." Hide like Minority Report. You got agents chasing them down in the street.
So this one's not really a conspiracy theory. It's more just a sad reflection of humans. Like,
people bought into it.
People bought into it. And that's it. That's all it is. That's the birds aren't real one.
Okay. What else have you got?
Am I going again?
I can do mine. I've got one that
how many have you got?
I got a quickie.
Okay.
There is a conspiracy theory about the fact that the Thai government actually subsidizes every Thai restaurant around the world, because they wanted to further the Thai cuisine over the globe. And so they actually offered incentives for people to open up Thai restaurants, and they sent out consultants from the Thai government to individual countries to say, like, okay, we're in the States, this is what an American palate would want from a Thai restaurant. There's even seems to be an alignment with costs across the board, whether or not you're sort of like takeaway joint, kind of run of the mill. You got this mid-weight sort of restaurant, and then you got like the fine dining Thai as well. But the thing that I saw was basically saying, next time you're in a Thai restaurant, you never know, you could be helping that restaurant pay back a Thai government incentive to start a Thai restaurant. There was a big push from the government to get their cuisine all over the world, spread their culture awareness. But apparently other
that's extreme
business governments have taken on board that as well. Like there was I think Indian, and I think Afghani or something like that as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like kind of lame though.
Yeah, it's just when I saw it today.
Not at you. I'm not saying at you, but it's like that's the conspiracy theory. Like, we really want people to eat Thai food.
I thought it was madness, but then again, birds aren't real.
Birds aren't
okay,
real.
The other one obviously is the flat earthers. And
are you doing that?
Are you?
No.
Okay, so there's no problem then. No, this is just a quick one. Flat Earth one is really interesting because if you watch people with their arguments on why the Earth is flat, and they talk about how with the curvature of the Earth, I shouldn't be able to look out at a distance and see something. I should actually be, if it was curved, I should be seeing, like, instead of the whole of a building, I should be seeing the top of it. Not forgetting that the world is massive.
Yes.
And the curvature of the Earth is way out there. Also for the fact that, when, planes and whatnot go up into that sort of the stratosphere, you can actually see the curvature of the Earth. And also,
astronauts have been into space.
Yeah, and they take photos of it regularly, but apparently they're doctored images.
I've heard that. Because I saw, I don't even know if I was watching this with you or not.
And this is no disrespect to any flat earthers out there.
No.
I'm just saying this is a conspiracy theorist.
I only have an issue with people who have a conspiracy theory when they're really aggressive about it and they like yell at you. Those are the annoying people. If you feel like the world is flat, then you can whatever, I don't care.
It's not.
You're wrong, but it's nice that you have your own thoughts.
But it's good to have, opinions on things.
No, but I saw this thing where it said that we live in a dome. Have you seen that?
Like the Simpsons movie?
Pretty much. But like the whole Earth is in a dome. And that I think that aligns with the Earth is flat theory.
Right.
And I can't remember the point of it, but basically we live in a dome and the world is flat.
Who made the dome?
The dome people.
Find out next week.
I assume an alien of some description.
Right. Okay. Well, the Earth.
I think I must have skipped. I think it was a TikTok.
The Earth definitely is not flat.
I don't think it is.
And also because they're talking about, water sits just on the surface. It's like, yes.
And some of them talk about how people just fall off the Earth. I'm like, I don't think that happened.
I don't think that happened.
And that's why animals are becoming extinct, because they fell off the Earth.
Wow.
Like I saw someone arguing that, and I'm like, that isn't a thing.
It's like Asgard.
They didn't fall off the Earth. Like they said, that's why we have no polar bears, because they're falling off the end of the Earth. Are
they particularly clumsy animals?
Well, they're at the end. Antarctica.
Valid. I don't know. Maybe I'll investigate more. Maybe I'll be a flat earther. Okay, so what I want to do one that there was a lot of mentions that you got anyway, but the one that I was going to do anyway, which is the one that I've been very interested in for a long time, which is 9/11 and the September 11 attacks on New York.
This one, let's have a little pre-warning. I don't know how I feel about this, because I feel like if what you're about to say is true, it's very sad.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm going to start with.
True.
Let's go.
And again,
I don't know if I agree, but anyway,
this is in no way any disrespect towards anyone who was involved in this in any way, shape, or form, or affected by it in any way, shape, or form.
If you're involved with it, then
this is just information that has been taken from videos available on the internet. But so there's a number of reasons why people believe the 9/11 attacks happened. There is the idea that it was a terrorist attack, plain and simple.
It's what we all heard.
19 terrorists hijacked planes and flew them into buildings in order to attack the United States, and especially the World Trade Center being this sort of financial hub. After the attacks, there was a lot of questions asked, and there was an investigation that was launched as well. But before I get to that, there's a number of reasons. There's a number of conspiracy theories why the 9/11 attacks happened. There was the one that the American government were looking for, I suppose, a reason to attack the Middle East. There's reasons like, that they funded the Taliban initially to sort of keep everything in line. The Taliban went rogue.
That's true, though, isn't it?
The Taliban went rogue, and then they were after them anyway. There is also oil over in the Middle East that they wanted to get their hands on. There's also the idea that they wanted Afghanis to produce more poppies for opiates, because there's a lot of other opiate capitals around the world, but not many people really talk about the Middle Eastern ones. There's also understanding that George W. Bush he knew the Bin Ladens. So why would maybe something went wrong? And then there's also the idea that the person who owned the World Trade Centers was given an $800 million estimate to refurbish the Twin Towers and make them fit and supposed up to city standards again. There was tons and tons and tons of asbestos in these buildings, and everything needed redone, and it was going to cost $800 million to do so. So some are saying also it's an inside insurance job. Now,
that's a pretty big job.
That is a big one. So the idea is that there was 19 hijackers, 4 aircraft, and these guys apparently had gone and done a few flying lessons. So
the people that took over the plane,
the hijackers. So the question is this: are these people who are they were into booze, they were into cocaine, these hijackers, that they were able to hijack these planes after a few flying lessons, fly them for 1 hour towards New York, towards Washington, without being intercepted by fighter jets, the Air Force, the US government. And
is that how long they knew they were in there for?
They were able to take them out in New York, 3 buildings with 2 planes. One obviously crashed. It was at Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And the other was flown into the Pentagon. Now,
the one in Pennsylvania never made it, though.
No,
that's the one they took over.
Yes, because the passengers on board apparently attacked the hijackers. So with the Pentagon one, and this is the argument about this, is that the way the maneuver that plane did, which was like this perfect corkscrew of a circle, that it flew down and it flew at the exact angle and it hit the floor of the Pentagon, where weirdly enough the budget analysis department was, and they had weirdly enough just started investigating that there was a missing $2.3 trillion that Donald Rumsfeld had announced the day before. He was a part of the Bush administration, I think, and he had announced that there was $2.3 trillion gone missing. The Pentagon started to investigate it, and then all of a sudden that department has been wiped out by a plane. Weirdly enough, though, there wasn't.
Was he in there?
No.
Okay.
Weirdly enough, though, there was like little bits of plane, but there wasn't a plane there either. So again,
but a plane went into the building.
That's what they're suggesting. But then again,
there's all saw.
We didn't see a plane fly into the Pentagon.
Oh, the Pentagon. Did we not?
No.
Is there no footage of it?
Not that I.
Surely.
Most like, well, you would imagine it's the Pentagon. So you've got that. So they found within about an hour, the news outlets knew who this was. It was Osama bin Laden. It was a bunch of terrorists. they also said that they found one of the terrorists' passport blocks away from the crash site, and they knew who it was straight away. Which everyone was like, "Well, that's a bit odd that you were able to pinpoint it was Osama bin Laden and all these terrorists."
Did they not? But were they not talking to the guys on the plane?
Well, the fact that they found a passport a couple of blocks away whenever there's buildings collapsing as well. Now, in regards to that.
But what I mean is like, because they were talking to the guys on the planes. So would maybe they were able to.
They went, "Who made you do it?" And they went, "Osama."
No, I don't know.
Right. So whenever you look also at the footage, demolition experts have watched the Twin Towers drop, and they've said that was in fact a controlled demolition. And there was reports that there was explosions that happened below where the crash site was, which would obviously imply that there was explosives set up down the building in order for it to fall completely straight down. Because you would imagine if a plane hit a building, especially, okay, yes, a big building, but they said that there was the metal beams within the Twin Towers after they collapsed turned into molten metal, like liquid metal. The temperature it would take to get to that temperature is far too high for jet fuel. And how would one jet fell a building like that? So there's all these, engineers, structural engineers.
But if they were old buildings that they were saying they needed to redo.
But they were built to withstand. They were built to withstand
planes
going into them, because
they
had run tests on it. And in fact, in the lead up to the Twin Tower attacks, there had been trials of similar aircraft flying into similar style buildings. So this is where all these conspiracies come from, where they'd say, "Well, why are they running these tests? Because they're seeing that it'll work." There's also theories that the planes, if you look at some of the footage, that none of them have markers on them at all. They don't have American Airlines at all. They're gray government planes as well. So that some people are saying they're drone planes being flown.
But there were people on those planes.
I know. I'm not denying that. These are the conspiracy theories, though. So now the big one for me is the buildings collapsing, because if you look at them and they fall straight down, that if you've ever seen demolition experts take down buildings, they fall basically straight down, not sort of off to the side. And also, if it was hit on the whatever 50th, 60th floor, whatever it was, maybe the top bit might fall, but is the rest of it going to collapse in on itself?
Yeah.
You've also got World Trade Center 7, which was the small building off to the side.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a weird one because it didn't even get hit by a plane. That collapsed itself. Now, they're saying that it was hit by...
when the other ones fell?
It hit by debris. It was hit by debris. And they said that the reason it collapsed and they shut it all down was because there was a fire in there and office furniture went on fire. But if you watch that building collapse, it's, again, straight down. Now, weirdly, though, there are many, many, many buildings in New York, you used to live there. But those 3 fell. World Trade 7 fell, and it looked like, again, it just imploded on itself. The weird part about that is that in World Trade 7, there is the largest Secret Service office outside of Washington, D.C., and the largest CIA field office outside of Washington, D.C., and a number of other government agencies.
So what would be the purpose for them destroying that then?
Well, they say in the Pentagon, there was some World War II documents that needed to be destroyed. So apparently it was a massive clear out. It was a government clear out and then a justification to invade the Middle East.
So there was like a few birds with one stone.
100%. And what way to better justify the attack on a country than getting the public enraged? These bastards attacked us in our financial heart, or the center of our finance. So there was a huge investigation launched, cost $60 million, which was underfunded, delayed, and apparently set up to fail. It was based on info taken through torture, and all of those records were destroyed and never showed up. The investigation failed to recognize the existence of World Trade Tower 7. It just didn't include it at all in the investigation. And it also didn't document the drills that I was telling you about similar planes flying into similar buildings. It didn't acknowledge that they even happened. The investigation was also lied to by the Pentagon, the CIA, and the Bush administration. And Bush and Dick Cheney, their admissions were not under oath. They were behind closed doors, and they were off the record, and they were not in public either. So essentially, they basically shouldn't have even happened. So they were inadmissible. But the investigation was killed off, and it was called by the Bush government, the Bush administration, a failure of imagination. They also found out that 2.5 terabyte of data was destroyed around the same time, of sensitive government data. So
I know there was like a lot of what's the word, like scrutiny under the way he responded. Like, remember there was that footage of when George Bush found out that the plane had hit, and he was at the kinder
reading the book. Well, he was trying to read a book.
Well, he was listening, and
but he was trying to read.
Yeah. But the way he responded was like very.
He carried on, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people weren't happy with that because they felt like.
Yeah. And he was also, there was that other one where he was at the golf course and he said, "Now watch me hit this drive," after he was told information similar. And that they say is the reason he reacted like that is because he knew it was going to happen. It was a massive clean out, and it was a justification to enter a foreign territory. Now, take on board any of that you will. I mean, I'm not in no way am I a structural engineer or a demolition expert, but you look at the way those buildings fell and you go, that's so odd that they fell like that. And within minutes of each other, it's just a bit bizarre. And especially World Trade Center 7.
Yeah.
It's a wee bit bizarre. Oh, it went on fire and then it just imploded on itself. That doesn't happen. But I also think about this: if there was that much as asbestos in those buildings,
they would have gone up.
The poor people of New York and America would have been breathing that in for months on end. Yeah. And now they're obviously starting to see people with health respiratory issues as a result of that. That is a heartbreaking part of it. You know, there's all these people say, why would the American government do that?
Well, this is where I'm at with it, because I'm like, I don't know if I am telling myself that I don't believe it, because and it actually makes me feel really emotional, because I feel like if that was true and that's everything that you said actually happened and it wasn't a terrorist attack and it was a planned thing and it is about money at the end of the day, you go, what a horrible world we live in.
Totally.
That so many people died and so many families were broken and torn apart, and people have got PTSD or irreversible injuries, have lost everything because of these certain
money
people's
and power.
Greed and money and power. And I go, I feel like if I believe that, it's like too sad. You know, so it's like, so you almost go, I prefer, and I know it sounds so ignorant, but you go, if I believe that, like, what hope is there in this world, really? Like, if that's how easy it is for us to just like be destroyed and for everything to be taken away because of a political movement, money, greed, whatever, then you go, fuck, maybe it is for the best. Maybe a complete like wipeout would be not the worst thing, because what we're doing to each other is so much worse.
Yeah. I know. But I mean, if you look, and this is a fact, this is not a conspiracy theory, but a fact. If you look at what the British government did to the Guildford 4 and the Birmingham 6, they pinned bombings, like mass bombings that killed many, many soldiers and English people on innocent people. So the Birmingham 6 and the Guildford 4. Birmingham 6 were completely innocent people. They were dragged into interrogation rooms. They were starved. They were beaten. They were kept awake, and they were forced to confess to something they didn't do. And then they were kept in prison for 16 years, and the British government knew about it. And then whenever it was all uncovered, they went, oh yeah, yeah, sorry about that. That's an example of the lengths people will go to pin something on someone to prove a point.
So they don't
And
have
that is politics, and that is warfare, because you know it was the 70s. It was very, very violent time in Northern Ireland. That is the length that people go to. I mean, they talk about the health system and how big pharma works with the food companies to keep people sick, so they keep coming back for pills.
Yeah.
Like all that kind of stuff. You kind of look at that and you go, it is sad. It is horrible. And then you look at the people who wear the tinfoil hats that live in the minivans out in the middle of a field off the grid, and you go, maybe you're right.
The right idea. I know.
Maybe you're right.
I mean, it's like when you like look at that, and then you look at all of it together, you go, oh fuck, like
can we just
too much. Sometimes it's better to be ignorant so I don't actually lose my mind, because especially something like that, like I remember the morning I woke up, like my dad woke me up and said, I just wanted you to know 2 planes, like I was in like year 8, 9, I think, I can't remember. I was young. And
you were young.
He woke me up and said 2 planes have hit in New York. Something really bad has happened. And I remember, like, even as a young teenager, like that horrible feeling of holy shit, like that's how easy it is for everything to change in a second. And it hit the whole world, let alone the people who were there. Like when I was living over there, people were talking about it, and you could see this like pain and the fear that they had and how horrible it was. And you go,
well, like, Americans stand for bravery, and we're strong, and we got the biggest army and the biggest navy, and then they got crippled badly.
And imagine they did it to themselves for money. Money is such an evil thing. And so that's what I mean. It's like, I don't know.
It's
if
evil
I'm just
when it's used
forcing myself not to believe it, because I'm like, it's just too sad.
Because I remember whenever I first mentioned something like that to you, and you shut me down.
I don't want to hear that. I don't want to listen to it. Yeah, I know, because it's too sad.
It is.
I prefer to believe that birds aren't real, you know, because it's like kind of crazy and kooky, but no one's really getting hurt. Where something like that, you go, fucking so many people died.
I know, it's horrible.
And even to this day, people get scared when they see planes flying. Like if I see a plane flying weirdly in our city, I go, oh my God, is it about to happen again?
Totally.
You know? So it's just
they like the impact it has ongoing.
Yeah. It's scary. And you sit on a plane, you sit even on a tram, like I felt so horrible for this. I remember going into the city on a tram, and a guy was sitting there, and he started praying. And we walked into, it was going into Flinders Street Station, which is like the main station in our city. And he had a backpack with him. And 100% I went, I'm about to die. He's going to kill us. Like, this guy has a bomb in his backpack and we're going to die. And you go, that's what all of this has started. Everyone is so scared to even go to an airport, to go on an airplane, to go into the city, because we're scared that people are going to blow us up. And you go, imagine it was our own people who were meant to protect us that were actually doing it. Like, it's just not worth, like, it just makes you go, what's the point? Like, we're all just easy targets.
Yeah, and I mean, you can be forgiven for thinking things like that because of, I suppose, it's drilled into. It's kind of like the way with COVID, everyone was a suspect. Everyone who coughed in a supermarket. I remember, like, during lockdown, everyone who coughed, everyone was like, because we were all conditioned to think you're going to kill someone or whatever, whatever. You're going to make someone sick, or you're going to get us into more lockdowns and all that kind of stuff. So you can be forgiven for feeling that, especially when it's the power of fear is a pretty incredible power to have, because with that you can control people, because you say, hey guys, are you really scared? Yeah, we are. Great. And I do what we say.
I am.
We're gonna go in and we're gonna invade this country. Yeah, we should do that.
They're the baddies.
And that's how they get the backing of the people behind it.
Well, I told you I saw this thing that was like, what's something that you never would have believed before COVID? And someone said, that your neighbor wouldn't dob on Anne Frank. And it was like so true, because how many, like, I don't want to get too much into COVID one because how many people do you know who would have gone, the people across the street are having a house party when we're in lockdown, especially the Melbourne people, like 2 years of lockdown makes you go a bit nuts. So how many of us would have gone, the people across the street are having a house party, that's bullshit, we haven't seen our families in months, I'm going to call the cops. In fairness, we didn't tout on people. Remember whenever those people were having parties? I know, but it makes you, but I see their point of like, you go, I would never dub people in, but fear makes you do things like that. Crazy things. But anyway. Yeah. So there you go. That was that. Now, again, I'm not expressing my own opinions on that. I'm just saying that the building side of thing is what confuses me. But that is, there's many conspiracy theories about 9/11. And there's many that have been shut down. There's many that have been sort of mocked and laughed at. But I think, unfortunately, what happens at the end of it is you've got family members who are still searching for answers, and they're the ones that are calling out. And actually, during that investigation that I spoke about, that $60 million one that the government launched, none of the testimonies and none of the questions from the victims' families were answered. So there's something to note as well. They didn't even acknowledge the family and friends of the people who died during the attacks. They didn't answer any of their questions, and they didn't let them speak. So that is horribly sad as well. So again, like you said, no matter what happened, there's so many people hurt as a result of it. Now, I'm not trying to take this down, the whole tone of this down, but it is, it's on topic. There are a million conspiracy theories about 9/11, and they will continue to come. Do your own research, do a little YouTube search, and you'll find a ton of stuff. And tell us what you think. Yeah, it's a big one. So to something equally as serious, I'm going to talk about the lizard people. Okay. Look, this one's a little bit this one's a little bit like, you need to just like stretch your brain just a frag. Now, I've seen a lot of TikTok videos about the lizard people. Yes, so have I. And Oprah. Oh, there's so many of them. I'll get into that. But let's start from the beginning. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're probably like, what the hell is a lizard person? Introducing the lizard people. The lizard people. So they are sometimes referred to as reptilians, reptoids, or draconians. But the lizard people are basically shape-shifting reptilian aliens who control Earth by taking on a human form and gain political power to manipulate human society. Done. That is what this conspiracy theory is about. Alien life forms controlling reptilian Earth. Humanoids who are shapeshifters who have taken political power and control us. So this all originated with a fiction novel. I'm just going to say that, a fiction novel called Conan the Barbarian, where it was about dragon men who conquered Lemuria. Conan the Barbarian? The Arnie Schwarzenegger film? I don't know. That was a cracker. I haven't seen that. So that's where it kind of first began. I actually didn't write down what year this was created, because my was in the 80s. My research skills are top notch. Just a side note, I'm not the researcher in the family. Paddy is. Hello. I'm more of the dot point person, and I kind of wing it. Amy's not a details person. Let me tell you this. So how was everyone? Yeah, good. How's I'll have random facts about something that doesn't make any sense. How's Samantha? Yeah, good. What was she? Oh, she was talking about the argument she got into with her dad. Oh yeah, what happened? I don't know. Something about, I don't know. It was something about a car. You pissed her off. What? Yeah, it was pretty serious. Now they don't talk to each other. Excuse me. What happened? What did they argue about? I didn't interrupt your story. I don't know. Something about a car.
Did you listen? Yeah, listen, but I don't remember the details.
Interrupt your story. I'm talking about something very important.
Sorry.
Anyway, so this is where it started, and that kind of like made a few of the tin hat people go, oh, that's a bit interesting. I love aliens. Maybe. Anyway, over time, there have been many alien abductions that confirm contact with these reptilian creatures. One in particular was a police officer in Nebraska, and he recalled under hypnosis how he was abducted by a UFO in 1967.
Yes.
And when he was on board, there were these humanoid beings with a slight reptilian appearance, and they had uniforms that had these winged serpent emblems on them. And apparently this created a whole thing.
Okay.
So there's a main force behind this lizard people movement. It's a guy called David Icke, Icke.
Okay.
Icke.
Is it like, you're a lizard?
Yeah.
You've got scaly skin.
Lizard people. Anyway.
Is he the lizard man?
No. So he is a New Age philosopher, and he's like the most prominent lizard man theorist out there.
Oh, so he believes in the lizard people.
He believes it. 100%. He's like the driving force behind it. And so he thinks that the lizard people are behind like the Freemasons and the Illuminati. So he has this huge backing.
Is this where the sugar water thing comes from?
Maybe. Men in Black reference.
Is it?
Reptile
people?
Not that I'm aware of, but you never know.
Do they like
so
sugar?
Anyway, there was actually a poll taken in America of how many people believe that there are lizard people among us.
Right.
12 million people think there are.
Wow.
Yeah. They probably are all in the same group called Birds Aren't Real. But
or Trump supporters.
That's yes. Well, I don't want to invite those people in.
Sorry, I don't mean that was an accident. I didn't even mean to say that because I'm not allowed to.
That's a different podcast. Anyway, so 12 million people in America are 100% convinced of these lizard people. There's actually a guide of what to look for and what these lizard people have in common if you want to look for them. This is 100% legit.
Do you know what? The more you talk, the more I'm like, maybe it's true.
Wait till you hear the list.
Okay, sorry.
This is a legit list of what to look for when you're trying to identify a lizard person.
Please, hit me with it.
Green eyes.
Okay, yep, that's a given. Yes.
Good eyesight or hearing. That's one for me.
Okay.
I've been told I have perfect vision. There's a few of these that make me a bit suspicious of myself.
22 vision.
Red hair.
Oh, Noah.
There's Noah. A sense of not belonging to the human race.
A lot of people. That's a lot of people.
Unexplained scars on the body.
Well, I don't remember where I got that one.
Lizard man.
Lizard man.
A love of space.
Every astronomer.
I know.
All those ginger
those
nerdy
NASA people are
those ginger astronomers.
Nerds with their damn good eyesight.
Really good eyesight. And they're like, oh, my hand.
Here's another
Where
one.
did this scar come
Another one. Low blood pressure.
That rules me out.
I mean, it's a typical like lizard thing, right? The doctors, they do your blood pressure and they stare at you going, you're one of them.
They blink sideways like this.
Well, this is the thing. I'm going to get back to that.
Because I've seen videos.
Yeah, this is the thing. Yeah. So here are some of the people. So the thing is, they say so many celebrities are lizard people.
Because they're all the Illuminati.
Yes, they're all under, that's how they control us because they're so influential and blah, blah, blah. So some of the lizard people include Barack Obama.
Correct.
Madonna.
He is a ginger.
He has really great hearing.
And beautiful green eyes.
He's so calm. His blood pressure must be pristine.
And I know he owns a telescope. Michelle, come and see the star. I want to show you the star.
There was a scar on his finger. I was so... How did he get that? Madonna.
Correct. She is definitely one.
If you look at her, you go, for sure. Katy Perry.
Right.
Bill Clinton, the Queen, George Bush, Mark Zuckerberg is a big one.
Well, he's not even a human. Yeah,
No.
I think I believe that.
Lady Gaga, Rhiannon, what's her face?
Rihanna.
Rihanna. What's her name?
Rihanna.
And that girl, Rhiannon, for sure.
Oh, yeah, the one that works at the deli.
Dodgy. She does not belong to the human race at all. And Angelina Jolie is one of them. Now,
I think that's, Oprah. Was Oprah in the list?
Probably.
Apparently, Oprah is one of the queens.
Yeah, and Mark Zuckerberg is meant to be one of the kings.
Which is bizarre because, I mean, how long have reptilians been around for? He's only been around for a wee while as well.
I don't know. So, look, there are videos. If you go on TikTok and look up lizard people, you will be inundated with theory people.
But also there's transformations.
There are transformations, and there's like videos of, and this is the thing that like made me, not that I believe this, but I'm like always in the notion of like, it could be.
I'm open to it.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Is that there's these videos of like some of these people I just mentioned where they're like in interviews and you look at their eyes and their eyes like blink the other way, like ours go up and down, where there's like the pupil goes like in and out, and it's like super, super subtle, right? And so you go, is that like a computer changing thing? Like, did someone do that, or is that real? Like, part of me wants to like track down those interviews that they've showed on TikTok to see if you can see it in them to like, you know, prove that it's not real. But it's like enough that you kind of go, like, it's subtle enough that you go, that's a bit weird. And there's like, they also have like footage of like the Queen or whoever, and they have these moments where they just like do these weird shudders, or their eyes like go in a weird way, or something that's not like altered in any way. It's just a weird twitch or something that they've done where you go, that was a bit weird.
Well, I can imagine that from the Queen because she died years ago and they've just kept her as she's as a robot.
Well, that's a different theory.
She's a hologram.
So like, I don't know, it's kind of a weird one where you go, it's
look, the footage thing, as someone who is in the industry to make things,
it's easy to do.
There's a lot of people that can do it, and then they'll go, and I'll just put it behind a lens, which will make it look really subtle.
But that's what I mean.
So someone could go, that's a bit weird.
Find the original interviews and see if you can like zoom in, because that would be kind of freaky.
Yeah.
But it's enough to make me go, maybe. I mean, I didn't look, to be totally honest, I didn't like really deep dive because like I said, I'm not the researcher. And I kind of didn't care enough.
but it's a talking point.
There's a talking point.
I think the jury's out on that. I definitely look, as far as like you mentioned the Illuminati.
Oh, I just thought of another theory that I should. Anyway, I'll talk about it in a second.
No, go.
I mentioned the Illuminati, yeah.
No, because this is going to move on from the lizard people.
So is mine.
Okay, great. Because the Illuminati theory with, you know, there's so many. So look up Dave Chappelle on the Actors Studio talking about why he left Hollywood. It's a really, really interesting few minutes where he talks about Martin Lawrence. And he said, anytime somebody wakes up to the truth, are you doing Michael Jackson?
Yes.
Tonight?
I was going to ask you about it.
Okay, great. So there's this theory that whoever opens their mouth and starts to speak up against the Illuminati or the powers that be, the people that control Hollywood, show business, the world, because they, and again, I'm like, what's the benefit of that? Like, hey, Beyonce, we're going to give you millions of dollars if you release music with subliminal messages in it. But what is that actually doing? Is it like buy Coca-Cola? Like what is it making us?
We won't know, would we? It's why it's so secret.
True. And also, but then, the hand symbols and all this kind of stuff.
Concerned? Like, do I need to start looking for like red dots on my head when I walk around? Like snipers are going to come after us, or is my podcast not that big a deal?
We'll start putting some ads behind this one. No. I mean, no. But people talk about this all the time. It's all theoretical. Again, these aren't my opinions. These are just things that are readily available.
What our opinions are yet.
No, exactly. We're not going to. So, but the theory about the Illuminati as well. If you look at Dave Chappelle talking about it, he said like Martin Lawrence had his shit together. He was in movies. He said he said he was a perfectly sane man. He started to speak up about some stuff. Next thing, he's in the middle of an intersection with a gun, waving it around, saying, they're trying to kill me. They're trying to kill me. Now, what makes a man do that is what Dave Chappelle said. Dave Chappelle was offered a ridiculous amount of money to do a new season of Chappelle Show. He disappeared, went to Africa, and left his family, and then came back and lives in relative obscurity in a small town in Ohio. But there's a lot of people talk about this, these people, they try to, buy my soul, and
they joke about it.
They joke about it.
There's all these interviews with celebrities, like one of the like talk shows will ask a question and then they immediately shut them down.
Yeah,
they get really awkward and don't talk about it.
I mean, look at Jim Carrey did that one where he came out on Jimmy Kimmel and he went and he did this hand symbol, which was like the Illuminati one. Then he put his tongue through it. I think it's called the Almighty Tongue or something like that. And he sat down and Jimmy Kimmel's like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, come on, Jimmy, you know." And he goes, "What?" He goes, it's the symbol of the Illuminati." And then he's like, "You a member. We all are. We all were." And he's like, oh, okay. And he starts trying to shut him down. And so there's all these theories.
I think that's why now people are like saying that Jim Carrey's like losing
his
mind.
And his makeup girlfriend partner who passed away, they tried to pin it on him. They also made it out like he had given her like STDs and all this kind of stuff as well. There's theories about that's why Paul Walker died. Even recently, really? Anne Hesh, when she passed away, that she was going to release this doco that apparently
it's still being released
about human trafficking, and it involved Ellen and Oprah.
So that just Jeffrey Epstein, right into Jeffrey Epstein, right, who did not kill himself.
Right. And then you look at, while the court case with Ghislaine Maxwell was going on, we were looking at footage of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, which got ridiculous coverage all over the place.
And the list that they were going to release never got released.
The black book of all the people. The flight manifesto.
The Jeffrey Epstein one we have been in depth with.
If anyone's seen the doco on Netflix,
it's very interesting. I actually didn't know much about him until we watched that.
Neither did I.
Not a nice person at all.
No.
Really disgusting.
But the people he had in his hand, in the palm of his hand.
Very interesting death.
And they talk about Tom Hanks and all these people being on these planes to the island. So like that kind of stuff, and then there's there's these like puppet masters that are sort of controlling everything. And if you speak up against it, you're right. You're a crazy person. They destroy your life.
This is where you start going down the rabbit hole now. We're in the rabbit because they say that the world is actually controlled by 7 families. And like, no matter who you are within...
7? I thought it was like 3.
No, I heard maybe
like the Rothschilds.
It's like, even if you're the president or the queen or whoever, the richest person in the world, you're not as powerful as these 7 families, and they basically run the entire world. Who they are, I don't know, because like I said, I don't do the research, and I don't want to know.
Yeah, and again, we don't. This is just
hearsay,
speculation. We don't know this information. We don't know anything.
I was going to say, oh yeah. So speaking of the Illuminati, I saw this thing the other day about the Denver airport. Have you heard about this?
That it's boring?
No,
No.
it's not boring. So basically, the Denver airport is, and even when you go there, they joke about themselves saying like, what's behind our walls? Is it like the gates of hell? Is it, you know, all these weird things, or is it just like us expanding to bigger area or whatever? And so there's like, basically, long story short, they think that beneath the Denver airport is like an Illuminati chamber. And that's where like
they do the sacrifices and
they do all the sacrifices, that people go missing, that there's actually passageways to all other places so people can go in there and appear somewhere else. And when you look into the amount of traffic that goes through Denver airport compared to another airport, so let's just say Indianapolis. Let's just say, why do I have to pick such an obscure one? Seattle. Let's just pick Seattle. Just say their airport has the same amount of traffic.
Oh, you choosing?
Yeah, why did I pick such a weird
Saskatchewan.
Their airport was made for like $8.5 million. The Denver airport was made for like $4.5 billion.
Well, there's definitely some weird stuff going on there.
And it's not like a special airport. Like there's nothing. When you look at it, there's nothing. So they go, where did you spend all that money? Like, where is that money? Where did it go?
Really nice marble in the bathroom.
And so when they look at the plans of the airport, it almost looks like a what's the Nazi symbol?
Swastika.
Yeah, the way it's like laid out is
so the
like
Nazis
that.
now.
Well, apparently it's like all connected.
What?
Yeah,
because it's well known that the most powerful names in Hollywood are Jewish people.
I know. But they also think there's also theories that America is run on like Nazi influence, and I don't know. Like I said, it's worth looking into.
It is worth it. If you've got to spare 8 hours.
Denver airport, there's some crazy stuff. And they're saying that like, because they joke about it so much, there's like signs everywhere throughout the airport where there's like jokes about how they have these connections with the Illuminati, and they go, what better way to deflect them with the truth?
Like living in plain sight.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also they're probably just generating a lot of marketing buzz about the new airport.
But anyway.
And then they can turn around and go, where'd that 4.5 billion go? And you go, well, 1.5 billion was on those posters we put out.
There's a lot of them. We got the gloss.
Yeah, and we got them express delivered. That's really expensive. What was Michael Jackson?
Oh, so we're moving on now from the lizard people.
We're moving on from lizard people, from the Illuminati, and from the Nazis in Denver, Colorado.
I have a question for you.
Hello.
Do you think Michael Jackson is still alive? Because we actually had this conversation a few months ago, didn't we? Because I was watching something on TikTok.
And you can pan TikTok all you want. All right.
There's a lot of weird shit on there. They've
just hit 1 billion users worldwide, so there's something good on there. I think, and don't hold on.
You put the tin hat back on.
I think that there is a very big possibility that he is alive, only for the fact that he was in a ton of debt. And in the lead up to his death, he was being basically forced to do this concert that he couldn't do because he's getting older. And oh my god, one of the dogs farted. Oh my god. He
Our dogs stink.
That is, you look ashamed, and you should look ashamed. Look at her. She's looking over her shoulder. She's so sad about it. I'm sorry.
It's Audrey, the stinkiest farter in the world.
She knows we're talking about her.
She'll be here in a minute.
So
she's very awkward.
Apologizing. So wow.
It's pungent.
So I feel like he was being pushed into this tour to pay for all his debts. There's There was like a big, because he was a constant spender. But I don't know, like think about the family and all that kind of stuff as well. And it's a big, again, it's like bring it back to 9/11. It's a big thing to put on people who are obsessed with them. But if you look at the footage of whenever the coroner's van pulled up to the corner, there was a guy who looked like him, got out of the back and ran into a door. So it could have all been a cover up, because look what happens whenever someone dies. Their albums go to number one. Look at Van Gogh. He didn't even really sell many paintings before he passed away, but as soon as he died, they were worth millions. So the estate of Michael Jackson would have made tens and tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars after he passed away. Albums went to number one, songs went to number one, merchandise, and then the estate gets to release docos and all that kind of stuff as well. But again, look at what they did. They were trying to destroy him in the press, calling him a pedophile and things like that. And whether or not you believe that he was or not, that doesn't really matter to this point. But like,
that's a different.
It's a good way to press the reset button. Thoughts?
I think he's alive.
Ooh, you're very definite.
Yeah, I do. I think he's very eccentric anyway. Like it really wouldn't surprise me if he did something like that. And I think he had a lot of demons, and there's a good way to escape them, And I think, there's like so many videos of him getting out of the ambulance, of him sitting in the back seat of his daughter's car.
Oh, that one was a bit of a...
People seeing him around the place. Like,
but would you though?
Would I what?
If you're like, hey guys, we spent all that effort of me taking my own death, I might just go out. I mean, you got one of the most recognizable...
He's not like walking out, like moonwalking through a fucking car park. No, he's covered up. But I mean, when you look at this, but this is the argument. Like, look at what he's done to his face. So you'd think maybe he would also do the opposite, like change his face if he were going to do something that big. But
well, there is that theory about that guy who he befriended, who was like the burn victim.
And that's him. Yes. And he was doing all those interviews, and again, it's like
his voice was very different to what it was a couple of years ago.
I forgot about him.
And you go, that would be something he would do, because he's a bit of a juvenile mind, and
he wants to see how people are talking about him. And he was also talking about how innocent he was and how great he was. And
if you look at that, I forget his name. It's like Jimmy or Tom or Jim or Dan. It's like it's a repeated name. But if they do a comparison between his look and his appearance and his voice from years ago, and they're very, very, very different. He actually sounds very similar to Michael Jackson, which moves me on to Tupac. Now we knew we were going to hit Tupac. Now Tupac's one of my favorite artists of all time. Tupac unfortunately was shot dead at the age of 25 in 1996. And
Paddy loves him. And look, I'm just going to tell you, I've heard this like maybe 45,000 times of my life. So excuse me, while I just switch off.
Strap it. No, don't.
I'm gone.
Now, I believe that he's probably dead, but
do you though?
Maybe not. So here's the thing. So Tupac Shakur was with Death Row Records. With the owner of that was Suge Knight. Recently, Death Row was taken over by Snoop Dogg. But Suge was a bit of a mean dude. He was a doorman, security guard, bouncer who basically forced his way into the hip hop business. Kind of like the Weinsteins did, kind of bullied their way through independent film. And so Suge Knight had like all the most hardcore rappers on Death Row Records label. And reports were that Tupac Shakur, who, son of a Black Panther, and self-educated guy, like extremely well educated, but self-educated. Like he would point at a whole bookshelf full of books. His mentor said one day, this woman that was looking after him, and he said, I've read all those twice. Like he read like Sun Tzu and Art of War and all those books, and he was just incredible. But he also did rename himself Machiavelli, and in the book Machiavelli, he faked his own death to foot his enemies. Now, Tupac was really outspoken. He was a big voice within the community. You strapping in? He was a big voice for in the community against the government. So there is this conspiracy theory that he was murdered by the government, but in conjunction with Suge Knight as well, because he was shot 5 times in this car in Las Vegas, and Suge basically got like a grazed bullet head over his head, but Tupac was shot 5 times. Now, there's also the 7-day theory as well. Can I just quickly go into this? Am I using up airtime?
Yeah.
We paying for this airtime?
Only
and so
mentally.
so there's this 7-day theory, right? So Tupac died 7 days after he was shot. And there's this whole connection to the number 7. So in one of his last music videos, he was like Jesus on the cross, fell down, rose from the dead, walked past this village, and in the background the clock was set at 4:03 a.m. and that was the time that he actually died.
So he did a premonition of his own death.
Yes, he also rapped about making more money when he was dead than he would be alive, taking everyone for what they had because he never got anything. So whenever he died, he had like $100,000 in the bank.
The time thing's a bit weird.
Yeah, but also at the end of Hail Mary, the song, you hear someone at the very end go 7 days. So there's all these like things that line up, and 4:03 a.m. 4 + 0 + 3 7. He was 25. God. 2 + 5 7. When he passed away. So there's all these things that line up saying he was setting this up and he was telling people, I'm going to do this. So Suge Knight owed him millions of dollars and he never got it. He died with $100,000 in his bank. This guy was one of the most popular rappers on earth. But then they put it down to like an East Coast, West Coast kind of thing. But there are many, many people that say the FBI and the US government were involved in his murder.
Why?
Because they were in the middle of Vegas. They were shot.
No, but why do they want to kill him?
Because he was such a loud voice for the African American community. So he had this tattoo over his stomach, Thug Life. Thug Life it was like a way of life for him, but Thug Life didn't mean Thug Life. It was an acronym for the hate you give little infants fucked everything. Right? So that was a fuck you to the American government, saying you made us out to be the African American community out to be bad, and you know like a stain on society, and you fucked it because you've set these people up to fail. So he was a really big voice for the African American community and like trying to help people, and he was a pretty incredible dude. And after he passed away, he's passed away at 25, they've released 4 double albums of work for a 25-year-old.
Where did all the money go?
To the estate of Tupac Shakur, his mother.
Have there been sightings of him since?
There have been in like South America, Mexico area as well. But again, it's kind of like, JFK. Yes,
I was going to talk about JFK.
Do you want to talk about him? But again,
are you done?
It's just more what I'm saying is the more outspoken people are, the more
progressive people are, the less people like them, especially in that country.
Sure.
I was going to talk about JFK. This is going to be the longest podcast.
I know, but there's so many things to talk about.
I actually have, so many more I want to touch on, but maybe we'll do another one of these. Quickly though, let's do JFK. So again, my notes aren't super long. I'm sure so many people know about JFK anyway. President of the United States.
What?
Yeah. Driving down the road.
He wasn't driving.
He wasn't driving. Someone was driving him. He was shot by Lee Harvey Oswald, who was in a building. He was assassinated. He died.
Was he killed by Lee Harvey Oswald?
He was. This is the thing. I actually found this one is a huge one. I will actually read the list to you because I read it to you, but I'll read it to the listeners, of who's involved. Anyway, let me go back to this. So JFK. So there's this whole thing. You will find so many docos on this as well. Like, was he murdered? Was he assassinated by a greater force? So he was a very young, progressive mind. He was very outspoken. He wanted to make a lot of good change in the world. And this is in a time when old white male Americans ruled things the way they ruled it, and they didn't like anything to be different, anyone to go against what they said, because that's what it is. Very similar to now.
I was gonna say.
Just done a big circle. Anyway, different episode. So they didn't like him because he was too different to what they were wanting. So there were a lot of people who weren't happy with him. The Kennedys also, like the whole family is just rife with drama. They've all had weird deaths. There's been scandals.
The curse of the Kennedy clan.
The curse of the Kennedys. Like there's so many people who don't like them for so many different reasons.
Quick fact. Remember I mentioned earlier on the Birmingham Six?
Yeah.
One of them ended up marrying a Kennedy.
Yeah.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that.
But you just went, yep.
I was trying to open something.
You were just okay. You were looking at your phone.
But for this reason, I was opening my phone for this reason.
Well, anyway, he married.
So so he was shot. And there were all these things that came out, and basically the way that it was handled was really bad by the authorities. A lot of witness statements disappeared. Funnily enough, it became a federal offense to kill a president 2 years after he died. So like you would get in trouble, but not that much.
Okay.
But 2 years later, it became a big, you can't kill the president.
I thought that would have just been a standard.
Well, that's what I thought.
Like an obvious kind of thing. Don't do
really
drugs. Don't kill the president.
So it was just really, really badly handled. People say, was it just because they weren't very good at their job, or because they were told not to keep evidence?
They put a man on the moon.
Allegedly. That's a whole other
well,
one.
And here's episode 2.
So anyway, there's things like there were 3 shots fired, but all these witnesses said there were actually 4 or 5. So they're saying the 3 shots came from Lee Harvey Oswald, but they're saying there were actually some from different directions as well. There was also this thing I saw about the Umbrella Man, which I thought was really interesting. And you can actually see him. So when he's driving down, when you're looking at footage of him driving like almost towards you, there's this guy who has an umbrella up. And it was like a really beautiful day. It was sunny. It wasn't raining. It wasn't hot. It was just a nice day. And so he's standing there with an umbrella up. And he was the closest guy to JFK when he was shot. And moments before he was shot, he starts twirling the umbrella clockwise, as though he was like signaling to someone he's in line. Because he had literally just passed him. He started moving it, and you can see it happen. Then he was shot.
Unless it was he was cocking his umbrella gun.
Well, there's theories also. So everyone was freaking out because there's someone with a gun, and your normal reaction would be to duck and to hide. He just stood there. He didn't move.
Yeah, so he knew.
He knew something was going on. And there are also theories that he was one of the shooters. And then he was seen like sitting on the grass. He was like
the grassy knoll.
I don't know. On the grass. And he was interviewed, but nothing like came from it. He kind of just like disappeared. And then apparently there were people saying that Lee Harvey Oswald, the way he was acting after it happened was like very odd. Like he was like going, or some people were saying he was like, I didn't do that. It wasn't me. Like, they made me do it. Like they were saying, he was like saying weird things, or he looked like really shocked. Like he had no idea what was going on. But then he was killed.
He was shot coming out of the court.
He was shot.
Because yes. Yeah.
And so there's all this really weird misinformation about what people saw, what people heard, blah, 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 blah. And so when I was looking into it, I just want people to know how complicated it is, because all these theories, these are the people they think could have done it.
Okay.
So you have the CIA.
Right.
Military industrial complex, organized crime, the government of Cuba led by Fidel Castro, Cuban exiles, George W. Bush, J. Edgar Hoover.
It would be George Bush.
George H.W. Bush.
Yeah, so that's
senior.
Yeah, senior, yeah.
J. Edgar Hoover, who ran the FBI. Earl Warren, the FBI, the United States Secret Service, the John Birch Society, far-right wealthy Texans, people from the KGB, the government of South Vietnam, international drug lords, and a French heroin syndicate. They are some of the people who they think could have killed him. So when I went to look in, I was like, surely it's just they think the FBI did it. No, it's everyone.
Well, it's fair enough. I mean, if you're the president of the leader of the free world, you're going to have a few enemies.
You are, especially if you're trying to make a lot of changes that aren't in line with what they want.
Who's this young upstart? I mean, look at Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. Anyone who speaks up, again, you're putting your hand up to get taken out.
And even if it's not just you, even if there are a couple of other people who also don't like him, it would be very easy to go, if we happen to be here that day, maybe you guys could look over there, or maybe you could just not write this down, or so maybe it wasn't just one, maybe it was a group effort. But it's a big
let's all achieve a common goal here. Did you hear the thing about the fact that there's not many people could have made that shot from where he was meant to have shot him, taking into consideration the speed of the car? It was a moving target, because it was the building was a fair while away, and I think they were talking about
it was on the 6th floor,
wind, the temperature affecting how the bullet would dip. But to make perfect shots, headshots especially, you need to be an elite marksman, which I don't think Lee Harvey Oswald was.
Maybe the KGB people
or American government,
CIA, people trained in that. I don't know. I don't know. That's another one where you go, I don't think we'll ever really know.
Well, remember Marilyn Monroe was taken out.
For sure, she was murdered.
Right.
And she was also linked to
going on a JFK.
So I think she saw something she wasn't meant to. How long after she died did he die?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Should I Google that?
Google it. And while you are, let's talk more about Tupac Shakur.
No.
I was only joking.
So he died on November 22nd, 1963. When did Marilyn Monroe die? 4th of August, 1962.
Oh, so a year later.
Before. She did not die of an overdose. 100%. There's so many celebrity ones, isn't there? Of, are they actually dead? Were they murdered? Are they still alive? Did they die and they're replaced by someone?
Well, when you look at the Michael Jackson thing, going back to, I think the doctor who administered the drugs to him, the milk, the fentanyl, he's still practicing.
Is he?
Yeah, but
surely
I think
not.
But doesn't that make it more legitimate that he'd be alive? Because he's he actually really didn't do it. Isn't he still practicing? I don't know. I didn't do the research on that one. I just know what I've seen of Michael Jackson getting out of the courier van. Look it up. Google it. Look it up.
Go on TikTok.
Go to TikTok. But look it up and see that, because the Michael Jackson one's really interesting, I think. Really, really interesting. They say that about Elvis as well. They say that Elvis had a double, and but I don't know about that one. What was Avril Lavigne? Was it on one?
Yeah, so I was going to do her. So she apparently died. So that they think that she died and there's a replacement. So
why would we need to replace her?
The theory is that because she was very much a recluse, she didn't like fame, and they said that due to like her immense fame and success, she actually got really depressed and killed herself. And so because of her nature, they had a body double who would distract paparazzi so that she could kind of like go and do her thing, and they'd all go, oh, look, there's Avril Lavigne. And because she was making so much money, like she had just come out with that album and she was huge and they were earning so much money, they got her body double and trained her to sing and act exactly like Avril, so that they could keep making money off her. And so her name was like Melissa something. And there's like all these videos where blemishes and freckles and stuff that Avril had aren't there anymore. And also at one point in a photo shoot, Melissa is written on her hand.
As in like
her original name.
They've tagged her.
No, it's like written on her hand. Like
so they could tell them apart.
No, like maybe she had written something or as a message, or I don't know. This is just what I've read. I haven't looked it up. But yeah, so they say.
And now she's just stuck being Avril Lavigne.
Pretty much. And so people have actually asked her, like, apparently you're dead. And she's always like, well, I'm right here. And so she doesn't like really address the rumor. She just kind of like makes fun of it. I mean, I guess how do you address it when you go, I'm standing right here? Like,
is she still doing music?
I don't know.
Because imagine that. Imagine it was like, yeah, you're at the height of your fame. You're going to be Avril Lavigne. She's like, sweet. And then she does it. And then Avril Lavigne's album sales drop. And then it's like, no, you're just Avril Lavigne.
Yeah, no.
And she's like, what do I do?
I always think of Skater Boy. The first time and this sounds so like, so cool. The first time.
I'm so ready for this story. Yeah.
The first time I heard Skater Boy, I was in LA.
Oh my God.
On holiday. And Skater Boy just came out on the radio, and I was driving down like Hollywood Hills, and Skater Boy came on. And so I went back to school. I think I was like 15, and I'm like, it's the coolest song. And then like 2 months later it came out here. I'm like, I already know that song.
That's brilliant.
But I was so cool.
Ahead of the trend as usual.
Yeah.
And you like Skater Boys.
I also tried vanilla Coke for the first time when I was on that trip, and no one knew what it was.
I don't have anything like that. We never went anywhere. We never. I don't have an LA story from when I was 15.
Not many people do.
No, when you hear these songs 2 months ahead, and this is before obviously you could hear it. Before
you had to hear it on the radio.
Yeah, you couldn't hear it.
There was no Spotify.
No.
I had Napster.
Oh yeah, I never had that.
That was illegal.
Was it? LimeWire.
LimeWire, I think, was also illegal.
Yeah, that's a surefire way to ruin your computer. And give it a virus. So there you go.
We could go on, but I think we'll do another one.
Yeah. The celebrities here are dead one's an interesting one though. Yeah, I don't know about the Elvis one, but there is a really cool film called Bubba Hotep. If you ever want to look at it, and it's like a Hollywood movie that they made. It's an indie film, and it was Elvis as an old man in an old people's home, and it's him narrating it and he tells the story of how they faked his death. Pretty good film. Have a watch.
There you go.
These have been our thoughts.
Yes.
And
we'll do another one. I've got more I want to talk about.
What else have you got?
I'm not doing it now. Part 2.
She doesn't know.
I do know. I have a list. Look at this. This is the list I got from people.
The moon landing.
The Mandela effect.
Right.
Area 51.
Keanu Reeves is a vampire.
Yeah, there's a whole vampire one. It's not just him.
Australia isn't real.
Yeah. America is built off Nazi Germany.
What's the big something money laundering?
Art. Art is just money laundering.
Oh yeah.
So if you don't hear from us again,
they got us.
You know. Anyway.
This has been a special episode to be a part of, Amy. Thank you so much for having me, and it was lovely to meet you.
It was always a joy. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Anything else?
I feel like you want to finish that sentence.
It's very late.
Thank you for being here.
If you would like to follow me, as usual, I'm at the following places. Hit it.
At Wiccan Sage on
now.
Instagram and Facebook. At Rosethorn Cottage on YouTube.
You can watch this.
Where you can watch this. Obviously, Ritual the Podcast on all of your podcast streaming platforms. And also Patreon at Rosethorn Cottage, ROSETHORNE Cottage, where you can get a lot of exclusive content and PDFs.
I actually want to do a conspiracy theory ep for them because we do special episodes for Patreon.
Yeah.
So
do another one. And also we will be releasing some additional audio for Patreon subscribers as well in the through the medium of meditations, which will be
with our calming voices.
We won't do that voice, which we will
or together.
Or together. That would be very annoying, which we'll be doing very soon.
It would just be us going, do you think we've done longer? Should we stop?
Is Elvis dead? So
this is your subliminal. Buy my things. Join my Patreon.
Of course, if you're hearing that, it's because you're already a member of Patreon. But also, yes, so at Amy, as Amy said, at Wiccan Sage will be shifting. Everything will be shifting under the Rosethorn Cottage banner
soon. Sooner than before.
Soon, yes, and the whole brand of Wiccan Sage will be sort of restructured. The online store
evolving. It's a more magical place.
Yes, it's a natural progression, and I'm really excited for it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
But that's where you can find Amy, and you can always find me right by her side.
Unless I'm doing an episode with someone else.
In which case I'll be hiding in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
But thanks again for having me.
Always.
Amy. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah. See you soon for a star.
Oh yeah. Am I in that one?
Yeah.
This should be called
stories be?
Ritual with the Harveys.
No.
Ritual with
what's our next?
Paddy.
We're going to do Amy. Aliens. We'll do aliens next.
Aliens and ancient aliens.
Just aliens.
Ancient aliens.
I'm not doing ancient. I know what I'm doing. Mine's more contemporary alien.
I like the old school aliens that are ancient. Either way, it'll involve aliens.
Anyway, thank you so much. Have a great night and watch the skies. Isn't that what they say?
I'm gonna go now.